Welcome to Finding the Good. We are on episode 8, and here at Finding the Good, if you are new, we are sharing God's goodness in the lives of His people. And so today I have my new friend Ceci here, who has an incredible story. We actually just met a few weeks ago. It was one of those things where you follow someone on social media and kind of know them that way, and then you finally meet them in person. And so we have a mutual friend, Carmen Lydia, who was actually the first girl I interviewed for Finding the Good. And so Ceci is amazing. I love following her on social media. She is an advocate for human trafficking, which is so important, and I'm so glad she's bringing awareness to that. And we'll talk more about that later, but right now, if you could just share a little bit about, tell us about yourself.
I love what you're doing with Finding the Good series. I think that's
Thank you so much.
So God-breathed, and I'm just so excited to be here. But I'm just me. I'm just a little mama who has 2 adult children and loves fighting for freedom for other people through the organization that we'll mention later.
Yes.
I have a full-time job. I work and also just started a small business late last year during COVID. I really wanted to take what I was doing with the nonprofit and extend that and offer some kind of solution for survivors of human trafficking. And I thought it would be really cool to showcase the amazing talents they have through selling products that are handmade by them from all over the world. And so I do that on the side as well. But more than anything else, I'm a mom and a daughter and a sister and a friend and a lover of Jesus. I love Jesus with my whole heart. Yeah,
it's amazing. How long have you been walking with the Lord?
Gosh, I've been walking with the Lord my entire life, but really truly understanding His goodness and what He did for us on the cross has been, I would say, a good 10, 15 years. Yeah.
So Ceci's story today, I would say it's unique from some of the other women I've interviewed, in the sense that I would say maybe you're still in that season. A lot of times I interview women and it's a season they've already gone through, but with your story, you're kind of still in the middle of it, but God has still been really amazing. And so today Ceci is going to talk about her mom's battle with cancer. Yeah. So could you share a little bit about who your mom is and the relationship you have with her?
Sure. So I'm probably gonna get really emotional.
That's okay. We don't mind tears here.
I grew up with my mom, and like most young ladies, we take our moms for granted, right? They're precious people, but really, truly, I didn't understand my mom and her struggles with being a mom until I became a mom.
Yeah.
And then I truly became more aware of how much I appreciate her, and all, it just comes full circle. My mom was diagnosed in 2017. It was a shocking diagnosis, right? It was one of those things where she appeared to be sick. She had been diagnosed with pneumonia a few times in that same year. And so when she was in the hospital, it was kind of just, I guess this will, she'll be out soon. She'll be fine. The diagnosis came on May 25th of 2017. I remember the day and the moment.
That's what I was going to say. So let's go back to that moment when you found out, and even the first couple of months. Like, what were you thinking internally? How were you processing that?
Gosh, that day was so scary. It was the day that my mom was supposed to be released from the hospital. So we were getting ready. I actually was working from the hospital that day, sitting in my laptop with mom while dad was running errands, because they didn't live here at the time. Yeah. So they had to travel back and forth. So he was running errands trying to get her out. He was ready to be out of there. But about 3 p.m. that afternoon, the doctor came in, and it was different. He kind of knelt down on the floor next to her, held her hands. And I think, doctors are so awesome in the sense that they're so used to this, and they know how to communicate these types of messages. But for us, it was so personal and so life-changing. In a second you say that word and you can't take it back. It's so different. We got the diagnosis, one diagnosis that day, And then a few months later, she was diagnosed with a completely different cancer.
Wow.
So the first few months were us as a family completely shocked. My mom was diagnosed with lung cancer first, which was a shock because she's never smoked a day in her life. So it was unfair, you know, it was shocking. We were like, are you sure? Trying to make sense of it. And then as we started to get the way that it works with cancer, right, you get one diagnosis, but then there's numerous tests and things that follow, procedures, and it's almost like a giant puzzle you're trying to piece together, and every single puzzle piece that comes, you're clinging to hope, like, tell me she's gonna live for 10 years, you know, and she's gonna beat this. And then you get a result and it's like, okay, that wasn't what we wanted, and it wasn't what we wanted, and it was crushing until the second diagnosis came. So she started at stage 2, and then immediately when she got the second diagnosis, it was immediately a stage 4, because you can't, you know, 2 cancers is harder to fight than one. And the second diagnosis was equally as shocking. It was mesothelioma, and that cancer is usually attributed to spending a lot of time with asbestos. So you think of somebody who's been working like in a mill or factory, and that wasn't really my mom's life. So it was shocking. So the first few months were a roller coaster of emotions, really. Honestly, it was clinging to what we didn't know was going to come. Well, you know, we knew our lives were going to change, but we didn't know how. And immediately the worst comes to mind is, how long do I have with my mom?
Yeah, and so I know you had told me, like you said, she had never smoked or any of these things, and so it was hard. Did you have any like internal conversations with the Lord, like what is going on?
Absolutely. And I think that's exactly what I asked. It's like, what is happening right now, Lord? Like, you know, my mom has literally, like, she has lived her entire life for the Lord. She, her and my dad had uprooted their lives to move to a new location to pastor a church. And they had been faithful in that for years. And I saw the dedication that they put into that. And so everything was about ministry. And then this. And I couldn't understand, you know, it was, what has she done that would cause this? And how can we help her? You know, you're God. What are you going to do about this? Like, clearly heal her. Please heal her.
And so, what do you feel like the Lord told you, like, in those moments as your comforter?
Sure. I felt like he was silent. Like he was allowing me to come over and over and over again and just empty myself out until there were no questions left.
Oh, that's good.
But he didn't respond. He was there though. And that's where we're at today. It's been 4 years since the diagnosis, actually 4 years this year, May 25th. And we look back and it's just this amazing, you know, way. You know, I mentioned how we were clinging to answers, and through the years we've clung to answers, and yet we've learned how to cling to God instead of clinging to the answers through that whole process. And so our dependency became less and less and less on what the doctor said and what the results of the procedures were, and more on, like, that's what's on paper. Let's take this to God, you know. And my mom was originally given a lifespan of 18 to 24 months, and it's been 4 years.
That's incredible.
That's
so
incredible.
Good. And I was going to ask you, you know, from, you know, those first couple of months that you found out to now, like, how internally is that? And I guess you would say, instead of clinging to the paper and the answers, you cling on God. Anytime your mom has doctor's appointments and things like that, would you say, like, you already feel how to process that now as opposed to back then?
I mean, it's still scary, right? And you still, because, you know, we know that medicine and doctors are good, and that the Lord has gifted them with a knowledge that I don't have. But and so we do trust that to some extent, but at the same time, we're not clinging to it. Like, this is not the final say. Like, Lord, you have been faithful.
Yeah.
You have been my mom's healer in a different way than we expected, but you have been faithful, and
Yeah.
you have not only in physical ways sustained her, but man, her spirit.
Yeah.
And our family as a core has just learned to just stand still, stop, trying to make things work, and just stand still and just let God do what God wants to do.
Yeah. How have you seen the goodness of God through this situation? So maybe personally, or maybe, through your family.
Right. So personally, like I said, I've learned to just continue to keep coming to God, right? Like in the first few months, it was like you hear this news and it's completely shocking. You can't even concentrate at work. You know that life is still going on around you. I mean, for me, I have children, but I wanted to be right there. Like, I didn't want to miss any moments with my mom, like none. But then you learn to say, okay, God, where are you in all of this? And what do you want me to see in all of this? And so for me, because I was distance-wise, geographically, different city from my mom, and I couldn't be there as often as I wanted to be, I had to learn to cling to the Lord in all those moments. Go to His Word, play some music, get off of the social media stuff, and really just focus on. And then I think I made it a personal commitment that for me it was going to be how I can best help mom right now is to keep leading her to Christ, to keep leading her to find her faith in Christ again, so that she's not always focusing on the bad news that keeps coming, because it just, at first it kept coming. It was negative result after negative result, and it just, this daunting cancer that she was going to fight physically, but I didn't want her to fight that spiritually and emotionally either.
Sure.
So I was going to be the best version of who was going to point her to Christ.
That's amazing.
And so then it just, now she's in a very steady, hard, solid foundation with the Lord again. And I think it's a daily battle, right? And when the negative results come again, it's funny, she has her doctor even saying, like, well, we're who cares about these results, because we're just going to look to the man upstairs anyway.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, she's kind of defied all of that.
Yeah. So for anyone who's watching right now, and I was going to word this like anyone who's watching right now maybe has a loved one battling cancer, but I would also say anyone who is in the middle of a tough season, or they're going through a storm, what's some advice that you could give them?
Right. I would definitely say, cling to Christ, cling to what you know, right? We go through tough seasons, but we prepare for them when we spend some time with the Lord in His presence beforehand. And it really does prepare us for those times. Remember some core things like God works all things together for our good. I mean, all things, right? Even the painful things, even the hard things. And our God, like, He is immovable.
Yeah.
I mean, He was sitting on the throne the day before my mom was diagnosed, and He's sitting on the throne today, and He will be, whether or not she stays on earth longer or is in heaven with Him.
Yeah.
And that is our God. He's steady. And I think one of the things that I learned the most that I would really want to share is that God can handle all our emotions.
Yeah.
Whether we're angry, confused, and don't have words. I mean, if we're just shouting like, Lord, what is happening? He can handle that. He is big enough. If all we have are tears, He can handle that too, right? So just keep coming, even if it's scared, confused, lonely. If you have nowhere to turn, He is the one place you can turn to. Yeah, over and over and over.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Ceci, for sharing your beautiful testimony and continued prayers for your mom and your family. It's amazing just what God has done with this painful situation so far, and what He's going to continue to do. And so again, thank you so much. I'm so happy we're friends. and again, gonna link everything and where you can find Ceci and follow her in her journey. And so thank you so much for watching.